But this is not the only death. You know, that's the mystery of the sea is the captain. But now we're back to Whitby, and we have two big mysteries that have happened. And one of them is going to keep rolling. Obviously, the mystery of Lucy and her sleepwalking. It's really beginning to bother Mina. How do I control this girl? How do I stop her from hurting herself and leaving the room? And we'll get to that in a moment. But the other one is another very sad one, and that is the death of Mr. Swales, another mystery. He is found on the same seat where Mina and Lucy used to sit and talk with him. His neck is broken, and he has a look on his face of pure horror. And one begins to wonder, did Dracula kill him? And was it because, possibly, if you remember, that seat is sitting above a suicide grave in the St. Mary's churchyard. And it's possible that that's why Dracula wanted to get into the suicide grave as his safe haven, as the place where he could comfortably rest, and had to kill Swales in the process. We heard so much from Swales about, I'm ready for death. When it's my time to come, I'll come. That sort of thing. He was a very wise man. He wasn't afraid of death. But it's really a horrifying way to go, that the man that had faced so many adventures and dangers on the ocean to die sitting in a bench in the churchyard above a suicide grave.
Wow. Dos detalles muy interesantes. Se continúan los misterios a pesar de que llegó el barco, llegó bien y ya se tiene acceso al diario del capitán. Hay dos misterios interesantes. El primero es el sonambulismo de Lucy, que cada vez va en aumento. Mina cada vez se encuentra más preocupada porque no sabe cómo controlarlo. Y ya habíamos platicado de lo que significa el sonambulismo, ¿no? De esto de perder la identidad y dejarse ir por el mal. Pero por el otro lado está el otro misterio que es sumamente relevante, ¿no? Que es la muerte de el señor Swales, ese viejo que se sentaba a platicar con Mina. Pero este detalle no lo había yo tomado en cuenta y también me parece brutal. Ellos se sientan en una banca que está en la tumba de un suicida. Recordemos que las tumbas de los suicidas no tienen cabida en el cielo, por lo tanto no es una zona bendecida, y si bien ellos se sientan en un cementerio, ¿no? Y está la iglesia ahí, la tumba del suicida significa un lugar que no está santificado, y por lo tanto eso es muy importante para Drácula, porque ahí es donde él se puede resguardar. Él siendo la representación del mal, él siendo la representación del diablo, necesita un lugar para descansar, y evidentemente no pueden ser las cajas porque están en el barco, ¿no? Y están en comisión. Entonces se va y encuentra la tumba del suicida, y resulta ser que ahí es donde está el señor Swales, y literal le rompe el cuello. Entonces dice Dacre que es pues triste, ¿no? Que este señor que había vivido tantas aventuras pues termine, ¿no? De esta forma. Sin embargo, de una u otra manera, él había convocado a la muerte en varias ocasiones. Okay.
So now we focus back really the rest of this chapter on Mina and Lucy and what's happening during her sleepwalking. And one of Mina's ways to stop Lucy from sleepwalking is they take this long walk to Robin Hood's Bay. And Mrs. Westerner drives her car because they mentioned she's got a heart condition. What's cool here is that there really is a Robin Hood's Bay, and it is a couple of miles to walk, and I've done it. Most of the people who go to Whitby like to follow in the footsteps of the action that happened in Whitby, and it's beautiful because you can walk along the nice trail along the coast, beautiful scenery, and this beautiful little town, and the little tea room is there, the same one with the bay window. You have a nice lunch and you walk back and you get lots of exercise. And Mina is thinking that if she does this with Lucy, she'll be too tired and sleep really well. She won't do any more of this crazy sleepwalking because it's really beginning to scare Mina about what's happening. And sure enough, there is a major incident where even though Mina locks the door, or says she locks the door, that she's sleeping in the same room as Mina, she is woken up by a noise and found that Mina found that Lucy is not there anymore. And he looks at her clothes in the dresser and realizes she must have gone. And that's when this most incredible chase, which in real life is about a half an hour for Mina to chase across from one side of town, across the bridge, up the 199 steps, all the way up to the St. Mary's churchyard. And it's wonderfully graphically described by Bram, because again, people do it. I even know people that have done what they call the Lucy run. You know, Lucy run followed by the Mina run. One person's running, the other person's running, just to reenact this. And at nighttime, when it's dark and there's shadows and you've got clouds and a moon, you know, it is pretty scary. And obviously, when Mina gets to the top of the steps, she can't see exactly what's going on, but she does get these visions of this dark figure leaning over top of Lucy, who is dressed in white. And not knowing exactly what it is, she makes this approach. Obviously, this dark thing goes away, and she finds her friend, you know, in this very sensual sort of moment, breathing hard, you know, not wearing many clothes. And she notices something about her neck, and she thinks maybe she that Mina by mistake pricked her with a safety pin. Yeah. She wasn't immediately connecting what Lucy was going through with obviously blood drinking. She had no idea at this stage, but just thought it was another strange sleepwalking experience, and that Mina himself had pricked poor Lucy and brought her back home. And Lucy's biggest concern, don't tell my mother. I don't want you to upset my mother. She has a weak heart. Don't scare my mother. Just let her be. But folks, we know this is the beginning. You know, we as the reader who know what's happened before realize this is the count. He has obviously come here. It was either the dog or the wolf. He's done all the horrible things. This is the pivotal moment right here that places the count at Lucy. And now the real action begins.
Wow. Bueno, muchas cosas que analizar aquí. Tenemos prácticamente una sensación otra vez del realismo importante que trae Bram Stoker a la novela. Recordemos que de repente Lucy empieza a caminar dormida, y entonces la manera en que Mina responde para contrarrestar eso es llevársela a caminar en estos paseos largos para cansarla lo suficiente para que esté tan cansada que no se levante de noche. Sin embargo, en un acto de terror en la noche, escucha un ruido, se despierta, no ve que esté Lucy, no ve que esté en sus ropas, entonces sale despavorida y dice Dacre que está perfectamente bien narrado la situación, porque bueno, pues todo es real. Recordemos que el camino es real. Entonces lo que narra Bram Stoker es un recorrido real de cerca de media hora, de llegar de un punto a otro, ¿no? Y entonces es la desesperación de Mina, ¿no? De ir buscando a su amiga por los lugares donde podría estar de noche, y finalmente se enfila hacia la abadía de Whitby y llega a ver esta figura negra, ¿no? Que está posada sobre la figura blanca de Lucy, que finalmente, bueno, pues aquí hay una situación sumamente, no sé si erótica, pero sí sumamente sensual, ¿no? Donde vemos a Lucy, después de que desaparece la bestia, ¿no? La vemos jadeando y con poca ropa. Sin embargo, aquí Mina no hace ningún tipo de conexión, porque no tiene por qué hacerla, sobre cuestiones sobrenaturales. Para ella, su amiga se salió a caminar, ¿no? Y ella la fue a rescatar, y si bien aparecen un par de heridas en el cuello, para ella asume que fue una herida con el pin, con el que abraza el chal, y no una cuestión sobrenatural, ¿no? Entonces, ahora viene el regreso, y en realidad, como estamos en la época victoriana, la gran preocupación era el qué dirán. No le digas a mi mamá porque se vaya a preocupar, o la misma Mina estaba muy preocupada para que no se encontraran a nadie, porque, pues, qué vergüenza.
Okay. But you know, one of the mysteries, and again, there's lots in this chapter. They resolve some, but they introduce others. How much blood was really taken out of Lucy? Was she converted into a vampire at this stage? No. But maybe Mina did interrupt Dracula from taking the blood out, because the very next day, when Lucy wakes up, she seems to be a little paler, but okay. And they actually go out for lunch in another famous place around Whitby called Mulgrave Woods. And they go for a picnic. But when they come back, a very interesting thing happens. And Bram did a great job on this, because when the sun goes down in Whitby, it does reflect into the windows of St. Mary's Church. I've seen it. And it has a red look. You don't always have a beautiful red sunset, but when you do, it goes into the windows and looks a little bit like red eyes. And Bram pointed that out through Lucy saying, as she was coming back with Mina from the lunch at Mulgrave Woods, "Oh, the red eyes," which she had said the night before when Dracula was drinking the blood. So now we have a natural occurrence that you and I could still see today if we go to Whitby, but it's combined to a supernatural occurrence that Bram wants to make that connection, which I think is very cool. A lot of people love to go up to the churchyard to this day to look at the beautiful sunsets and look at the reflection in the church windows.
Wow, otro detalle sumamente interesante de la visita de Bram a Whitby y de la manera de narrar las cosas. Se nos cuenta Dacre que en los atardeceres hay ciertos momentos que el atardecer se pone rojo, ¿no? En cierta temporada del año, y eso se ve reflejado en las ventanas de la abadía de Whitby, dando una sensación de ojos rojos. Entonces, ese es un dato que menciona Lucy cuando viene de regreso con Mina, le dice los ojos rojos, pero quizá Lucy se está refiriendo a Drácula, ¿no? Y Mina en su cabeza pues tiene esta referencia porque sí es real, como dice Dacre, que un fenómeno natural que se ve reflejado, parecen ojos, que al mismo tiempo se contrapone con algo sobrenatural, ¿no? De las condiciones del conde Drácula.
And the final thing really to point out in this chapter, it ends with a sort of foreshadowing of how a vampire is allowed into a building. Mina is out and she comes back to the Crescent where they're staying and looks up in the window and sees Lucy at the window gazing out and waves her handkerchief out like, "Hey, hi," and gets no response. So you wonder, is she under the spell of Dracula and Dracula's coming for more blood? Or is she just sleeping? Obviously, we don't know, but we have a pretty good idea she's under the effect of the Count. And Mina has to go upstairs, put her into her bed, because now she's not functioning normally, and close and lock the window. And this will come back to haunt Lucy later on when they get back to her house in London, about making sure the windows are closed, she's properly protected. But at this stage in the story, we don't know the rules. We really don't know how the vampire is coming in. We don't even really know that the vampire can shapeshift. Although we do see a big bat flying away from the Crescent towards the Whitby Abbey, which is right next to St. Mary's Church. So people like you and me, Enrique, we can deduct that that's the Count who tried to come in the window, and now he's going back to spend, the daytime back at his suicide grave in St. Mary's Churchyard.
Wow, aquí tenemos reflejado una sensación también de mucho misterio, porque bueno, no sabemos cómo es que Drácula sigue acosando a Lucy, porque si bien Mina lo interrumpe al principio, ¿no? Es evidente que no la drena, ¿no? En esa noche en la abadía, porque al día siguiente, bueno, pues si bien está pálida Lucy, pero no está moribunda. Entonces esto va gradualmente creciendo y bueno, pues llega un momento cuando cuando Mina la ve en la ventana y la saluda y Lucy simplemente no la ve, nos hace pensar que Lucy está bajo la hipnosis o bajo el poder del conde Drácula, ¿no? Y dándole como este acceso, ¿no? Porque precisamente el vampiro no puede llegar y simplemente entrar, sino necesita ser invitado. Entonces quizá estamos viendo los poderes, ¿no? De dominio del conde sobre Lucy, porque si bien todavía no sabemos de esta cualidad, pero uno como lector puede inducir fácilmente que es uno de las manifestaciones del conde, ¿no? Bueno, pues primero el lobo negro, el perro negro, y ahora, bueno, pues se ve un gran vampiro, un gran murciélago afuera de la ventana.
So I've got a question for you now, because you've been mostly just translating, not so much giving your opinion. But as a Dracula scholar yourself and a graphic artist, what is your opinion of this chapter? What's the most graphic and telling part of this reading today? Because I know you and I have chatted about it, and here you are holding your crucifix as if you're a crewman on the Demeter. What's your opinion of this?
I believe, and I'm holding this because I believe as a graphic artist, the implement of the crucifix into the novel, it's a reminder, because Jonathan has it, and he was warned by the old lady to warn it if he is going to be with Dracula. But then again, we have the same image in the power of the captain, and in this moment, it's very clear, as you said, that this is a battle between good and evil, and the evil is the real evil. I mean, he's the demon, he's the devil, he's the contrary of God. So one of my most